Three, one, two, three. And hello, fellows. Herogon here. Today is Thursday, January 4th of 2023. It's now 4:55 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's been alright 2 weeks since the last Funlog of 2023. And of course, Christmas and the New Year have come and gone. And I've enjoyed some time with my family and with some of my Christmas gifts. So, playing through Sonic Superstars has been pretty okay. Aside from the long as heck bosses that I can't really get through faster enough. And I'm still checking out the books I've gotten. And what a great way to start our new year off with the first Funlog of 2024. Thus, with the bi-weekly schedule that I decided on before New Year's, thanks to Instagram polling, of course, of which only 5 people voted, and they all did unanimously bi-weekly. So yeah, thanks to those that tried to vote, at least. It was the very least you could have done. Now, with the new schedule, I have myself covering it 2 new Sean the Bro tutorials every 2 weeks or so. Now, with this new thing, that will essentially mean I will no longer be doing Instagram Funlogs. You'll still get sizzle reels that show what will be coming up, but if you want to see the whole thing, if you're on Instagram or Facebook, best check for a link to any of my YouTube channel videos around. And in other news, I have finally made a script for the video. Some of my stuff was improvised right now, but it's definitely going to be great using my scripts to cut down on some of the ramble and give much of the info straight. How straight, that all depends. Oh well, it's I guess you can call it the internet. What can I do about that? Now, the first week's tutorial sees Sean the Bro cover automated frame data. Automated frame data will save lots of time and effort for animations and determining accurate startup, active, and recovery frames for said animations. Of course, manual frame data can still be used if desired, but for me, I like some automation to aid with the work sometimes. Now, in the characters.cpp code, I have 4 new variables, all int64. First, they're in the header, of course. Now we have ourselves the integers here. We've got last command use startup frames, active, and recovery frames, which will be used to track our stuff. But first, we have start attack frame, first active frame, first recovery frame, and end attack frame. These variable values are set in the animation blueprint of our characters. They're all int64 variables, and each frame variable is all part of one animation. Start attack frame handles when we start our attack transition, going from idle to the attack itself. Right here, let's see. Start attack frame. We set that right there in start attack transition. first active frame is when our active hitbox is spawned in the world, usually when it looks like our character is about to hit the other player. Right, we will have that right in create active hitbox, right near the end here. And our first recovery frame is when we have finished our attack. And usually when it looks like we're recovering from our attack. And right now we have that in here, right at the end of all of our attack ended. And finally, end attack frame is when our attack has finally ended, going to idle from the attack via a transition rule in the animation blueprint. For a second, I'll show you it there now. Light punch, going from there. Going from idle to light punch has start attack transition as a start transition event. And going from light punch back to idle has end attack transition as our start transition event there. Now, we also have a few new variables around. Let's see. 3 new variables I mentioned earlier. The last startup, active, and recovery frames. These track the last command used frames for each of these. They're meant to display all of our frame data in a UI. Let's see. In the frame data panel, we have all of these values right here. And it pretty much goes a little like this, where we determine our stuff and get our frames here, get active, and get recovery. And we also have a new function that's used around here called gather frame data. Originally, I had this as a blueprint event, a blueprint implementable event. But instead, it's just a blueprint callable, and it gathers extra data about a command using automated methods. That blueprint callable function helps automated frame data tick, to put it one way. Get it? Tick, as in tick puns. I guess people won't get that as easily. In the character.cpp, all 4 of our integer 64 variables are set to 0, and the same goes for our 3 new integer variables. Start attack frame, first active, first recovery, and end attack frame. Same goes for last startup, last active, and last recovery. All of those are 0. And our last blank within the gather frame data code function in the CPP, of course, we've had to comment out the gather command data from table for the moment, which retrieves additional data about the command being performed. In our gather frame data function, we have a bit of math here. Our last blank frames are set to having a variable subtract from another. First last start frames is equal to the first active frame minus the start attack frame. And that is a bit of complex math, but it can prove an intriguing analysis. Same goes for last active frames, but it's instead first recovery frame minus first active frame. And finally, last recovery frame equals end attack frame minus first recovery frame. Each new integer 64 variable was set in a particular area. In case you missed, start attack frame was set in the start attack transition, which is called when we go from idle to light punch. And we get our frame count and plug it into the set node. The same happens for all of our stuff here. We get the frame count, plug into set. For all of these here, the first active frame is set in the create active hitbox blueprint function. Like I said, it's near the tail end of everything here. And there's a whole lot of logic for setting our members in hitbox data and so on and so forth, setting our attack state to active, and of course start attack transition and end attack transition are pretty important here. But of course that will be all for the first week from here. Now in the second week, Sean's tutorial for December 31st involved saving out values for music volume and sound effects volume. I also got to create a new function to play sound effects, which can have volume adjusted there. In the C++ code that involved the character.cpp, I added a new variable part in the play sound 2D function, which isn't a function made from my own. It's just part of the gameplay statics. Now, I used a game instance ref cast to base game instance. If our game instance ref equals cast to game instance, where we get our base game instance there, and our gameplay statics will play the sound 2D, get world, we can use whatever hit sound we want, and our game instance ref will use sound effect volume for that. Otherwise, if our game instance ref isn't casted correctly, we can still play our sound 2D, but it won't have the sound effects volume be able to adjust. The sound effect volume variable from base game instance serves as a sort of link for the volume multiplier in play sound 2D. Now, in the base game instance stuff there, I have all my settings around somewhere. Let's see. Sound. There we go. Sound effect volume and music volume. Then the base game instance.cpp. I think I have them set to 0, but if not, oh wait, no. I have them set to 1, actually. And then, of course, going into the save game part, whenever we call save game, which so far is only called in the end match part, we of course save our game. And with our data to save, we can save just about anything, even sound effect and music volume from there. Alas, the volume value can only save after playing one match. Not really ideal, but I'm sure someday improvements will happen. And thus, almost on to the gameplay in our play music part, as well as the custom play sound 2D, we have sound effect volume being used. Well, for play music, we have music volume in the volume multiplier and a new function called play sound 2D. We cast a base game instance, get our sound effect volume, and put it into the volume multiplier. And everywhere we once called the simple old play sound 2D, we will now play the custom play sound 2D. Our sound to play is exposed, so we can use whatever we want there. So now, on to the gameplay. Unfortunately, I've had some issues with the light punch's frame data, which is a bit of a bummer. You'll see soon enough. Now within Beachside Karate Dojo here, I will show you the frame data bit, which is a little rough on the damage on the frames for the light punch. From what you can see here, the values tend to be erratic on active and recovery frames all the time. And it'll even happen if you happen to hit them. As you can see here, a bit of bugs, and that's about the best I could show for the stuff there, but I'll go back in again to show the light kick part, which should hopefully be a little bit better on things. Moving up to them, fight, and then once I kick them and the whole thing is over and done with, you can see our startup, active, and recovery is far different from the old hitbox, the old command stuff. For light kick, it was originally 2, 36, and 4 for startup, active, and recovery. But thanks to this, we now have a little more accuracy around. We of course can kick them, and that will give a little more of active frame due to the hit, but if I do it without hitting them, it's now 24 instead of the typical 28 if you hit them. And that's about the best of things for the punching the frame data part. And in settings, you can see I have my volume and sound effects stuff here. I can set them like that. It won't save unless I do an entire match, but I won't go into that. But I'll let you know that I can save after the match, and it works pretty well. Now, credit goes to Sean the Bro for his Unreal Engine tutorials. His programming tutorials are something I'm going to look forward to whatever's in store for them this very year. I've used Unreal Engine and his tutorials since June of 2021, and they're often popping tutorials for me. With all that said, I hope you guys like this video. Comment down below and subscribe if you haven't already to my YouTube channel here. And it helps a small YouTuber out, especially in times like these. I've been Herogon, you've been you. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you all later. Goodbye, everyone.